loyal subjects of the Imperium of Man. I am Librarian Elias of the Adeptus Astartes. I am creating a series of recordings with the intent of educating the general populace of the dangers of the galaxy. All of this information comes from the Lexicanum provided to me by the Adeptus Mechanicus. I will be reading verbatim from their archives. This recording will cover one of the many foes the Imperium faces, the biologically advanced Xeno species with an insatiable hunger, ravaging every world that comes into contact with them. The Tyranids. The Tyranids, also known as the Great Devourer, are an extragalactic alien race whose sole purpose is the consumption of all forms of genetic and biological material in order to evolve and reproduce. Tyranid technology is based entirely on biological engineering. Every function is carried out by living, engineered creatures, each of which collectively forms the Hive Fleet, directed by a single hive mind. The Tyranids are seen as one of the gravest threats to the entire galaxy. They seek only to consume all organic life and cannot be reasoned with or deterred in this quest. Worse still for the galaxy, thus far the Tyranid hive fleets that have been encountered are merely the furthest stretched tendril of the main Inflation fleet that is still traveling the void of space. Origins of the Tyranids. The Tyranids were first attracted to the Milky Way galaxy when the Xenos communication device known as the Pharos was overloaded during the Battle of Sotha during the Horus Heresy. The exact origin of the Tyranids themselves is unclear, save the fact they are not of the galaxy and have only recently arrived here after traveling countless millennia in the intergalactic void. It is unknown which galaxy they originated from or for how long the Tyranid race has been on its genocidal rampage, but it is believed that the Astronomicon that is drawing the Tyranid hive fleet to threaten the galaxy. Indeed, their very name is but a title given to them by the Imperium, named after the planet where they were first encountered, the planet of Tyran. It is possible that they have been preying on other galaxies since time immemorial. According to another source, they have consumed 1,000 galaxies and are responsible for the annihilation of millions of intelligent species. The Imperium's first official contact with the Tyranid race was in 741, Millennium 41, when the Hive Fleet, later known as Behemoth, invaded the Eastern Fringe and annihilated the planet Tyran. However, re-examination of Imperial records has led to speculation that the Tyranids have been invading, or at least probing the galaxy for much longer. Some of the galaxy's most notorious predatory beasts, such as the Catachan Devil or the Fenrisian Kraken, are guessed to be the descendant of ancient hive fleets. Records kept by the Ordo Xenos of the Inquisition suggest contact with Tyranid bioforms as early back as at Millennium 35. Even more remarkable, in 937 Millennium 41, a bioship was discovered beneath the surface of Nusquan Fundamentabus, where it had lain dormant since around Millennium 34. This discovery raised the disquieting possibility that other dormant hive units are already assaulted around the Imperium as a whole, waiting for a new hive fleet to awaken them. The raw matter of chaos offers no nourishment to Tyranids, and this is why the hive fleets normally avoid areas plagued by warp storms and demonic activity. This has become more difficult as the impure essence of the warp increasingly pours from the Great Rift and across the galaxy. This has caused vital resources to be denied to the hive fleets, and Kronos appears to be the hive mind's solution to this problem. Kronos being Tyranids that have been genetically altered to specialize in fighting chaos. Biology of the Tyranids. The Tyranid and still less likely that they will ever all be seen. Every weapon and projectile used by the Hive fleets is a living organism, grown from the reconstituted biomatter of previous invasions. The Tyranids have no form of mechanical technology, and instead harness an advanced form of biotechnology. These creatures live in a highly symbiotic fashion, fusing into each other's flesh so that it is often impossible to say where one Tyranid creature ends and another begins. In this way, Tyranid warrior beasts wield living weapons that are literally extensions of their own bodies, each one a killing machine, perfectly adapted to slaughter its victims. Tyranids are highly toxic to all forms of life, and many of their organisms expel toxic spores during invasions to make a world uninhabitable to non-Tyranid life. The bioconstruct nature of the Tyranids makes them a terrible foe to face, for their armies contain a creature specialized for every conceivable facet of warfare, which can be altered and regrown to suit a battle's needs in a short span of time. Thus, a Hive fleet can adapt to any force capable of overwhelming any opposition, unleashing a vast throng of ferocious alien monsters that can fly, run, burrow, and stalk the defenses of any foe. The Tyranids do not communicate with the other races of the galaxy. The Tyranids cannot be reasoned with, appeased, or surrendered to. There can be no hope of mercy from such a foe. To face the Tyranids is simply a matter of survival. Kill, or be consumed. It seems there is no end to the substrains of the Tyranid as a species. Many of the most commonly seen, though, have been given names to easily identify them. The most frequently seen Tyranid species are Hive Tyrants, Brood Lords, Tyrant Guards, Tyranid Warriors, Lictors, Gene Stealers and their hybrids, Gaunts, Rippers, Gargoyles, Raveners, Biovores, Convexes, Zoanthropes, Harpies, Hive Crones, Trigons, Tervigons, Tyrannophexes, Exocrines, Haruspexes, Dimachirons, Toxicrins, and Maliceptors. In addition to these, there are also dominatrixes, which ensure good communication between all of the Tyranid forces. There are also known queens who live within the Hive fleet and spawn new Tyranids. Originally, creatures called Zotes were part of the Tyranid force, and some Magos biologists believe that they are left over from a much earlier Tyranid invasion, although they appear to have disappeared from common sight. There are many pieces that make up the structure of the Tyranids. Within the Tyranid swarm, there is no idea of individualism, as each unit is linked to the next in a form of swarm consciousness. There is only one reason for the creation of any of the forces involved in Tyranid armies: to implement the will of the swarm, be it a Hive Tyrant or Ripper swarm. This chestnut consciousness is commonly referred to as the Hive Mind. There are also certain Tyranid units that are considered synapse creatures, whose job it is to control the lesser species within the swarm. They are capable of receiving and sending orders via the Hive Mind, and this connection is vital to the effective running of the Tyranid race, for without it, the swarm would collapse into disarray. Usually synapse creatures are fielded in relatively large numbers to allow a rapid advance of the lesser creatures and allow them to remain in range of a synapse creature. Then there are the Hive fleets. Tyranid forces are broken up into huge Hive fleets which appear to be moving independently of each other, each with their own unique, distinguishing characteristics. Some of the most major fleets and propel its accompanying hive fleet to its destination. The arrival of the Tyranids is often met by psychic disturbances dubbed the Shadow in the Warp. The consumption of planets is all that the Tyranid hive mind seems to want. In the process of assimilating a planet's biological and inorganic materials, the most important stage is the location of a suitable target. One method by which they accomplish this is the spectral analysis of distant stars to determine their likelihood of supporting life. However, the fastest and most common method used is the use of vanguard organisms, millions of which range hundreds of light years ahead of each hive fleet. Investigating each star system, they encounter for signs of life. Once a suitable world has been detected, these biovessels spawn infiltrator organisms, such as lictors, gene stealers, or specialized gaunt strains, and launch them into the world via mycetic spores. Once inserted, these organisms will seek out all life and target those of a highly organized nature, such as humans, restricting themselves to lone targets as to avoid revealing their presence. Gene stealers in particular will seek to infiltrate communities and create cults, not only to signal the planet is ripe for consumption, but to weaken its defenses against the hive fleet's arrival. As the psychic beacon of the infiltrator organisms flourishes, indicating a rich feeding ground, so does the hive fleet home in on it, and the process of cutting all interstellar communications as the shadow of the warp blankets the target system. Upon arrival to the planet, the hive fleet will disperse within the planet's upper atmosphere and begin launching millions upon millions of mycetic spores. Many will contain Tyranid warriors of various strains, from rippers to biotitans, and so come in a multitude of sizes. Others will deliver zoomorphic symbiotes and parasites which target and mutate the planet's flora at a rapid rate. Within hours, verdant forests are replaced with highly aggressive alien vegetation, including capillary towers, which begins the process of transforming the planet's atmosphere into a hothouse, turning the sky a sickly red and raising the temperatures at an accelerating rate. Other spores are nothing more than giant cyst bombs, filled with viral and poisonous organisms which burst over population centers, killing millions of people in the opening hours of the attack. Each one will cover an area many hundreds of meters across with acidic digestive bile, starting the process of future ingestion. After the initial attack, vast swarms of flying gargoyles will herd the native population into the path of fast-moving hordes of gaunts to be viciously slaughtered. The defenders, often underestimating the Tyranids' intelligence, make fighting retreats to buy themselves time to regroup from the onslaught, only to be encircled and destroyed as it becomes apparent they were merely herded into prepared killing grounds. These last pockets of resistance will become the targets of larger Tyranid species, from warriors to carnifexes and biotitans, which eradicate the defenders with sheer offensive power. With resistance ended, consumption of the planet's resources begins. Bacterial agents and vast tracts of feeder organisms, pupated from the carcass of native life forms, ravage the landscape of every ounce of biological matter before being collected into reclamation pools, where the matter is rendered into a thick, nutrient-rich gruel. This includes all mutated plant life, which has finished altering the atmosphere into an oxygen-rich environment, and any infested organisms who march blank-faced into the reclamation pool's depths to be consumed by the hive fleet. As the digestion pools swell, the hive fleet's ships cluster in low orbit as vast capillary towers emerge to link with proboscis-like feeding tubes and pump the biomass into them. The final stage of the harvest is the consumption of the world's atmosphere and seas, with vast drone ship haulers descending